Hey there, and welcome to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, and tonight I'm going to do another roast chicken for you. The chicken itself, pretty simple. We're not going to muss and fuss with it all that much because we're going to hit it with a really incredible sauce, along with a little bit of polenta. The polenta, nice creamy side dish. And for the sauce, we're going to do a pan sauce, but I'm also going to quarter some mushrooms, some cremini mushrooms, roast those with the chicken, and then create an awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I just transferred my chicken to a roasting pan, and I actually am using a rack. Now, frankly, you don't really need to use a rack if you don't have one. You don't need to use a roasting pan if you have one. If you got a pan big enough or a frying pan big enough to fit the chicken, you're good to go. Just cook it directly in that. I've got the butter, salt, and pepper on the chicken, and now's the time. If you want to add some additional herbs and spices, you certainly can. I've got a little bit of thyme here. I'm just going to sprinkle kind of all over the chicken, throw a little bit down into the cavity there, and then I also happen to have a little bit of oregano. And then it's really as simple as this. You just take this guy, we're going to put him into a 400-degree preheated oven. It's probably going to take an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half or so. About 30 minutes through, I'm going to insert a meat thermometer. I'll show you how to do that. That's the best way to really tell when it's done. Okay, along with our chicken tonight, our roast chicken, we're going to do some polenta, and along with our polenta, we're going to do some roast mushrooms. So I've got a pan here on the stove, and I've got some cremini mushrooms that I simply quartered, cut in half and cut in half again. And I'm going to lay those down into my pan. If you want to go smaller, you absolutely can. But for this dish, or this prep, I kind of like the mushrooms to stay pretty big and pretty whole. We are going to cook them down quite a bit, so they will shrink up significantly as we cook them. I'm just going to start these on the stove top and let them get, kind of soak up some of that olive oil. And then I'm going to put them in the oven after about 5 minutes on the stove top, when the chicken has probably 40 minutes or so left to cook. And we're just going to roast these off. Okay, my chicken is about halfway done. It's probably got 45 minutes or so to go. Let's go ahead and start our polenta. I've got chicken stock on the stove. You can easily use water. I think a lot of recipes call for water, but chicken stock's got a little bit more flavor, so why not? The ratio is about 4 to 1. I don't think you need to be exact. Obviously, I'm not being super exact here. I find it probably takes a little bit more water than, at least the way I like it, the way a lot of the recipes say. And you're going to find that the polenta really sucks up the water and gets thick pretty quick. So you want to just drizzle it in like I did, kind of slowly. And very quickly, within 3 or 4 minutes, you're going to see that the grains really swell up, and we'll come back. You'll see how thick this water gets. Okay, you can probably see how much thicker my polenta has gotten here. Now, I don't think, just because it's thicker, I don't think it's anywhere near cooked. I like to let mine go for, like I said, a good half an hour or so, just on low simmer. You do have to keep it super low. It kind of turns almost molten. You'll also want to make sure you throw a cover on it, and then come back every 5 minutes or so and just give it a quick stir. Make sure nothing's sticking. If you find it looks really dry at any point, just go grab a little bit more chicken stock, a little bit more water, add it in. I did forget. Let's add a pinch of salt at the beginning, and then also just a little bit of black pepper, because you want those individual grains to be nicely seasoned. We are going to come back at the end and add some Parmesan cheese, a couple other things to give it a little bit more flavor as well. Okay, so my bird's been going for about 40 minutes or so. I'm going to go ahead and take my meat thermometer and stick it into the breast. You want to get it nice and deep in there. And mine, it's got this nice little wire. You get to keep the thermometer in while the reader stays out. So I'm going to put this back in the oven. You're looking to get about 165 on that breast meat. I'm also going to add a little bit of chicken stock just to the bottom of the pan, so that it soaks up some of those drippings, and will eventually kind of become our gravy for the chicken. Okay, so I just pulled my mushrooms out because they are to the place I want them. Nice and you know, they're kind of firm. They've got good soft edges, and I can tell most of that, or sorry, good crunchy edges, but still soft on the inside. And I can tell the you know, they're good and crispy. So unfortunately, my chicken probably needs another 20 minutes or so. No problem though. Just pull the mushrooms out, keep them right in the stovetop. They're perfectly fine to sit, and we'll just pick it up once the chicken comes out. While that chicken rests, we'll finish up our mushrooms. Okay, so I just pulled the old bird out of the oven. The temperature on my gauge here reads about 157. That's totally fine because I know the carryover temperature is going to keep rising for about 7 or 8 minutes, and it'll easily get into the mid 60s, 160s. So our chicken is nicely done. It's really important. You know, you got to let it rest. If you cut into it now, all the juices are going to run. So what I recommend is just grab a little cutting board, something maybe with the channel. Ooh, a little water in that cutting board. Something with the channel around there. Lift the chicken out and just let it sit on the board for a few minutes. And during that time, we'll make our sauce. Okay, so I just pulled my chicken out of my roasting pan. And you know, roast chicken on its own is absolutely delicious, but roast chicken with the drippings or with the gravy is even better. So first thing I'm going to do is really just strip out this this juice. You know, go ahead and just you know, move the pan around and scrape everything up with a wooden spoon like this, and then pour it out into a bowl. Separate the fat, and then you are absolutely good with your gravy. You know, you can just reduce it, add maybe a little chicken stock, reduce it down, and then you've got your perfect roast chicken gravy. Okay, let's go ahead and finish our mushroom sauce for our chicken. I've got my mushrooms. Remember, I pulled these out probably 15 minutes ago. I just put them back on the heat and brought the pan up to temperature. So I'm going to add just a little bit of wine, just a couple splashes, because I don't really want a you know, wine sauce, but I do want a little bit of acid in my gravy. So I'm going to let that go, and I'm just going to let it reduce for, you know, 30 seconds like that. That much really doesn't take all that much time. Second thing I'm going to add, although it's very hot, is the drippings that I pulled off of the chicken and out of the roasting pan. Obviously separated out from the fat. I'm just going to pour those right in there and let these reduce down with the mushrooms. Bring it to a boil, let it reduce down, and that is essentially going to form our sauce. Simple as that. Okay, I've been cooking my polenta for you know, about 45 minutes, generally with the cover. And you can see, you know, how thick it's gotten. I've had to add a little bit more chicken stock a few times along the way, but really that's all I've done. We're going to finish it off now with just a little bit of milk. Now normally I'd use cream, but I don't have any cream. Not a big deal. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of butter. And then finally we're going to have some cheesy polenta. So I've got some Gruyere or Swiss cheese that I'm also going to add in. And we're just going to stir this in. Let it kind of mix in, and this is where we're going to get nice creamy, cheesy polenta. That'll be absolutely delicious. I happen to be using this Swiss or Gruyere cheese, but I've done this dish with goat cheese. I've done it with cheddar cheese. You know, almost anything is absolutely awesome. Now you should start seeing a nice, creamy, smooth consistency here. We do, after everything is mixed in, still want to give it a little taste. This one could still, that cheese is awesome in there, but could definitely use a little bit of salt, a little pepper, and I think it's still a little thicker than I want, so I'm just going to add a touch more milk. Once I get this stirred in, we're essentially good to go, so I'm just going to cover it up. Our chicken is resting, so you know, that'll take another 5 minutes. I'm just going to cover this back up, keep it on low heat, and then we're ready to serve it. Okay, so you can see how reduced my my drippings from that chicken are, and I just gave it a little taste, and it's super intense. So I'm actually going to thin it out a little bit with some chicken stock, and just mix that guy in there, and you can see how, you know, thick and nice and rich it is, maybe a touch more. And then what we're going to do to thicken this, now I've shown you roux on the site before. You can certainly, you know, start off with a roux with those mushrooms and just let those go. Another way to go though is with a little bit of cornstarch. Cornstarch and water make essentially a thickener. And that's what I've got here, about half and half. You just want to stir it up a little bit, make sure none of that cornstarch is sticking to the bottom, and then add, you know, maybe a teaspoon or so, a little bit at a time, and it's going to thicken the sauce almost immediately. You just got to stir it in there, and it'll help give it just kind of a nice glossy finish. I'm going to add maybe just the rest of that in there. And our sauce is done. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to turn this off. We'll go ahead and carve our chicken and then serve this guy up. Okay, so let's go ahead and plate our little chicken dinner tonight. I've got our creamy polenta with cheese. We'll lay that right down on the plate in the middle there. Then I've got some chicken. How about we do a few pieces of the breast meat laid out right on top, hopefully nice and pretty. And then finally we've got our mushroom sauce with the natural canned drippings. You can just go maybe spoon a couple mushrooms right on top there, and then drizzle the sauce around the plate. And there you go. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.